Nicolas Cage is Hollywood in its purest form. A man who won an Oscar, starred in iconic action films, and then started churning out movies as if he had his own film studio running on a conveyor belt. His career is a real roller coaster, from masterpieces and worldwide fame to rock bottom, where some of his masterpieces were so low profile that you can't even find them on certain websites. But the main thing is that he always remained Nicolas Cage. And today we're going to talk about how an actor who once took home Oscars managed to lose his Hollywood star status and turn into a meme, only to suddenly make a comeback. Not exactly a full-on star again, but he definitely made a step forward. For now, drop a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. And let's get started. Nicolas Cage was born into a truly cinematic family. His uncle is the legendary director Francis Ford Coppola, the creator of The Godfather and Apocalypse Now. But young Nicolas didn't want his career to be seen as family favoritism. That's why he changed his surname from Coppola to Cage, in honor of Marvel's superhero Luke Cage. It was his way of proving to everyone that he could make it on his own. In the 1980s, Cage was actively searching for his path in film. His early roles were quite diverse, from the romantic comedy Valley Girl to cameos in Rumblefish and The Cotton Club, both directed by his uncle. His real breakthrough came with Moonstruck, where he starred alongside Cher. That performance proved that Cage could be more than just Coppola's nephew. He could be a fully independent actor. For that role, he received a Golden Globe nomination, while Cher basically needed a separate room for all the awards she collected that year. Around this time, Cage was also experimenting with comedies and dramas. Raising Arizona by the Coen brothers showed him in an absurd comedic light, while Vampire's Kiss became a meme long before memes existed, thanks to his completely insane acting choices. The late 80s and early 90s turned Cage into an actor who was always willing to take risks. He could choose strange projects, but also ones that brought him real critical acclaim. This path took him to the most important milestone of his career, the film Leaving Las Vegas, which earned him an Oscar and the status of a world-class actor. You'd think that after such a victory, Cage would follow a predictable high-prestige career path. But instead he made a sharp career turn that brought him even greater fame. Hollywood was searching for a new action hero, and Nicolas Cage unexpectedly became the perfect candidate. In 1996, The Rock was released. Together with Sean Connery, Cage created a duo that made the film a cult classic. Audiences were used to seeing Bruce Willis or Sylvester Stallone in such roles, but Cage brought something new, an intelligent, slightly eccentric hero thrown into a whirlwind of explosions and gunfights. And just a year later, two major blockbusters hit the screens, Face Off and Con Air. Each grossed over $200 million. This was when Cage became a true box office magnet. His films were earning hundreds of millions, and he joined the list of the highest-paid actors in Hollywood. Cage was everywhere. Thrillers, Snake Eyes, 8mm, romantic dramas, City of Angels, dramedies, The Family Man, straight dramas, Bringing Out the Dead by Scorsese, action films, Gone in 60 Seconds, war movies, Wind Talkers, which, to be fair, was a sign of what was coming, because the film was a complete failure both critically and commercially. And that still wasn't everything he released between 1998 and 2002. Nearly all of his films were box office successes, and everyone in the world knew the name Nicolas Cage. In 2002, he starred in Adaptation, and that role earned him his second Oscar nomination. It's genuinely one of the best performances of his career. A double role, self-irony, and Charlie Kaufman's complex script. Cage proved he was still a great actor. In 2004, one of the signature adventure films of the era was released, National Treasure, the perfect example of the smart hero solving mysteries, racing bad guys, and discovering a big secret at the end genre. Another notable role was in Lord of War, a serious drama about an arms dealer. Cage received a lot of praise, and the film later became a cult classic. This long period was the peak of his career. He had numerous awards and nominations, the status of a major action star, and huge popularity with audiences. It seemed like Nicolas Cage would become a legend who would keep starring in top-tier projects well into his 70s. But, of course, failures didn't pass him by. Very soon, his Hollywood triumph would turn into a string of strange choices, financial troubles, and endless memes. The second half of his career could truly be called the era of Weird Cage. Big studios still found him appealing, they could give his films large budgets, and sometimes it even paid off. But the quality of the films themselves became a roller coaster. The Wicker Man. This movie was the first real blow to Cage's reputation. The remake of a cult British horror film turned into a farce. It became the perfect example of how not to make remakes, and, of course, gave us this infamous scene. Ghost Rider. Marvel wasn't yet the giant machine it is today. But comic book movies were already doing well, so Ghost Rider had a chance to become a new cult franchise. Instead, audiences got melodramatic nonsense, weird CGI, and Cage with a flaming skull that looked more funny than scary. The film performed decently at the box office, but this is definitely not how you launch a franchise. National Treasure. Book of Secrets. But not everything was bad. The sequel to National Treasure became a massive hit, grossing nearly $500 million. Cage could still be successful, especially in family-friendly adventure films. Disney even planned a third movie, which still hasn't been released, although development finally seems to have restarted. Bangkok Dangerous. This film could have been a simple throwaway action movie with a $45 million budget. Instead, it turned into a mix of cliches, bizarre action scenes, and Cage with an absolutely empty stare and a hairstyle that looked more dangerous than the entire plot. Critics destroyed it, a miserable 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. Audiences didn't like it either, and the film bombed. Knowing. The movie started out as an intriguing sci-fi thriller, apocalypse, prophetic numbers, but the finale with ominous aliens caused laughter and confusion. Critics called it a strange blend of philosophy and nonsense. And yet, at the box office it was a huge hit, grossing $200 million. Sometimes it happens. Bad Lieutenant. And here Cage suddenly reminded everyone that he used to be considered a brilliant actor. Under director Werner Herzog, he played a corrupt cop juggling brutality, drugs, and madness. The performance was so bizarre and fascinating that critics loved it, but audiences ignored the film. The late 2000s were a time when Nicolas Cage was torn between two worlds. He could still star in successful blockbusters, but at the same time was choosing projects that were destroying his reputation. And this is where the foundation for his downfall in the 2010s was laid. Debt, strange roles, and the label of an actor who takes absolutely anything. It all began, well, not terribly, and even modestly by the standards of Cage's disastrous 2010s. 2010, Kick-Ass. Kick-Ass, dare I say it, became a small cultural phenomenon that introduced, or simply showcased, several young actors who would later become major stars. But at that time, the main selling point of the film was Nicolas Cage. In this dark superhero comedy, he played a charismatic vigilante raising his daughter, Hit Girl. The role was almost a parody of Batman, and that irony suited Cage perfectly. He acted weirdly, exaggeratedly, but this time it worked in his favor. And although it was one of his best roles of that era, there was a catch. It was a supporting role, not the lead. And that clearly showed that Cage was no longer seen as someone capable of carrying a film on his own. The Sorcerer's Apprentice. Here the situation was the opposite. Disney wanted to launch a new adventure franchise where Cage plays a powerful wizard mentoring an ordinary student. A budget of over $150 million. The same producers behind National Treasure. It looked like a recipe for success, but the result was different. The movie felt like a strange mix of Harry Potter and Percy Jackson. And Cage in a wig did not inspire confidence as a wise mentor. The script was so formulaic that no one wanted a sequel. The box office barely broke even, and instead of a new Disney franchise, the studio got yet another expensive experiment no one remembers. A shame. The potential was there. 2011 to 2012. Incredibly productive years. 5 films. Almost 5 failures. Season of the Witch. It was supposed to be a dark medieval fantasy, but ended up as a mix of cheap CGI, a strange script, and Cage looking like he has no idea what he's doing there. It broke even, but only barely. Drive Angry. Here Cage openly leaned into his hyper-crazy style. The plot. He escapes from hell to take revenge on a satanic cult leader. The movie bombed. Reviews were horrible. Seeking Justice. A thriller about a man who makes a deal with a secret organization to carry out horrifying missions in exchange for revenge. The idea had potential, but the execution didn't. Box office flop, terrible reviews, and even a Razzie nomination. Trespass. Cage played a businessman taken hostage with his family. With Nicole Kidman by his side, you'd expect at least something interesting. But the movie was so dull and predictable that it skipped theatrical release entirely and went straight to DVD. A complete failure. Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance. A sequel that should have fixed the mistakes of the first film, but it turned out even worse. The story was chaotic, the visuals were cheap, and Cage overacted so much that it looked like a parody. Reviews were awful, but at least the film finally made a profit. And here we must pause and talk about why Cage's projects suddenly took such a drastic, total plunge in quality. There were two reasons. 1. His films started bombing at the box office. Studios stopped inviting him to major projects. His name no longer sold tickets, and that pushed him down to the second tier. Indie thrillers, direct-to-DVD releases, and even low-budget Chinese and Bulgarian films. 2. Cage's financial disaster. And here the truth surfaced. In real life, Nicolas Cage was an extreme spender. He blew through almost all the money he earned in the 90s and 2000s. He owned dozens of properties. Castles in Europe, a private island home, a multi-million-dollar comic collection, dinosaur bones, and other trinkets that cost as much as 10 years of work. When the financial crisis hit, he accumulated massive debts and was forced to sell his assets. To plug the financial hole, he accepted any offer from Hollywood or international cinema. His former financial advisors sued him for irresponsible spending. He sued them for mismanaging his money. These legal battles depleted his finances even further, forcing him to take on even more roles. Because he had to film as much as possible just to stay afloat, he gradually gained a reputation as a crazy uncle who could never again appear in a serious movie. Maybe studios even wanted to cast him in major roles, but audiences no longer took him seriously. By 2012, Nicolas Cage plunged deep into the true third tier of cinema. And we would never have heard of films like Outcast, Pay the Ghost, Dog Eat Dog, USS Indianapolis, or Army of One if he hadn't starred in them. Of course, there were flickers of hope. A supporting role in Snowden. Mandy. It flopped at the box office but was widely seen as a step forward for Cage. Voice roles in The Croods and Spider-Man, Into the Spider-Verse. The latter being arguably the biggest animated project of the decade. Thanks to it, he now has a live-action series coming up, Spider-Man Noir. But overall, the decade was an uncompromising failure. And it seemed like there was no chance for a comeback. However, Cage suddenly began cranking out films that he wasn't even ashamed to add to his filmography. Pig, a drama that made it to a number of smaller festivals, received highly positive reviews overall. The horror film Longlegs, which earned back its $10 million budget tenfold. The horror comedy Renfield with a budget of $65 million, where Cage played Dracula. The film, of course, flopped on all fronts, but at least people actually heard about it. The thriller The Surfer, which premiered in Cannes, where Cage's performance was also praised. And finally, The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, where Cage played Nicolas Cage, an actor whose career has sunk to the bottom, and who goes to earn some quick cash by spending a couple of days with an eccentric billionaire, played by Pedro Pascal. Even though the movie failed at the box office, each of you has definitely seen at least one scene from it. Yes, Cage became a meme again, but this time deliberately, entirely on his own terms. Of course, this decade still produced plenty of shot-on-a-camera projects. For example, The Special Forces Dad, which grossed just $700,000 worldwide on a $20 million budget, or The Shooters, which scored a miserable 5% on Rotten Tomatoes. But without these, Cage's career likely can't continue. Debts don't pay themselves, and it's tough to break back into truly big-budget cinema. And yet, the actor finally started showing signs of hope, not just on shady websites with single voice dubbing or only with subtitles. Nicolas Cage is a truly unique figure. You can't even say he disappeared, because people have remembered him all these years. At the same time, his career hasn't been revived by one or two successful roles, so he doesn't quite fit into videos like Where Did They Go? Or Actors Saved by One Film. Nicolas Cage deserves his own separate, unique video.